Hello and welcome to my Project 2 presentation for Finance 335. Today I will be going over Chapter 4, question number 2. And I'm just going to start by kind of reading off the main gibbets of the problem. So it starts off by saying, Loblaw Manufacturing has asked you to create a cash budget in order to determine its borrowing needs for the June to October period. You have gathered the following information. And then it gives us months, sales, and then other payments. After this, it gives us a couple other sets of data, but to start, I am just going to start with the months and the sales. So we're going to start in row 4, so I can go back and format the headings and the titles as accordingly. But I want to start off in row 4, C4, and I want to start off with April. And then I'm kind of just going to go down the line, go April, May, June, July, August, and then I'm going to include November. Just for the sake. All right, so now that we have this, we can get the sales from the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug all of these numbers in. I'm going to come back and format them accordingly. I just kind of want to get the numbers down, and then I can mass format them at the end. 3, 9, 1, 2, 4, 3, 8, 1, 2. All right, so now that I have all of these, probably sales. So these are all going to be the sales. And now that I have all these, I can gather up all of these data points, go to number, and I want them to be in dollar terms. I'm going to do that. And I'm also going to take away the decimal points because these are, they're just sales. We're not going to have 0.00 across the board. All right. So next, also, it says April and May sales were $327,031 and $383,906 respectively, which I just plugged in. The firm collects 20% of its sales during the month and 65% the following month and 15% 2 months after the sale. Each month, it purchases inventory equal to 55% of the next month's expected sales. The company pays for 40% of its inventory purchases in the same month and 60% in the following month. However, the firm suppliers give it a 2% discount if it pays during the same month as the purchase. A minimum cash balance has to be maintained of $25,000 each month, and the firm must pay 4% annually for short-term borrowing from the bank. So to start, it's telling us to create a cash budget, which I already have begun, for June to October 2021. This cash budget should account for short-term borrowing and a payback, outstanding loans, as well as interest expense. And then it also gives us a point that the firm ended with $30,000 in May as an unadjusted cash balance. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to kind of run through the cash budget. I might fast forward a couple points here and there just because it might get a little repetitive. However, I'm going to get right into it. All right. So as we were told, there was collections of approximately 20% cash, and then first month after was 65, and then it was 15 after that. So what we're going to do, come back here and go collections. First one, we're going to do cash. Second one, we're going to first month. And we're going to second. So this, And so it's 20% for first month, 65%, second month, and 15% respectively. All right, so now that we have this, we are going to be able to kind of run through and see what each month should be. So April, we don't have anything prior to kind of reference, so we're going to start in May. So here we're going to run equals, and we're going to times this number right here, the May sales. Obviously, we're going to times it by that first month because we're doing it in the same month. We're going to do this here, and then we are also going to make the cell stick. So by doing this, we're able to drag it across all the way in order to get what we need to get. All right. So after we do that, we are going to come back here. And once again, first month after collections, the first months after we sell it, we are going to collect 65%. So here we're going to run equals, obviously the month before, we're going to multiply that by that 65%. Once again, holding that cell constant. All right, and now I'm going to drag this all the way again, because why not? Lastly, we are going to do the second month. So for May, we are not able to do this because we only have April, 1 month prior. So we're going to start this in June. So in June, we're going to do same thing pretty much as we did last time. It was C5 as in April sales. And we're going to multiply that by that 15%. Hold that constant, drag it down. So now we're here. We have all of our collections, right? Now, what we need to do is make a total collections sum. Also, if I'm just kind of running through Excel skills here. If you forget to write something into a box, something like that, I always like to use F2 to get back into a cell. Easy. And honestly, super helpful. All right, so we are going to go here. Let's bold this just so we can know that these are totaled. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do sum equals sum on a very beginner function to use. And then we're going to drag that all the way down. We cannot forget to do this first box with cell D9, even though it is blank. That's important because every other month is going to have that third collections period. So once we get here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to format this. And I am going to get a top border so you can see that it's sum. All right. So now, the next step, it tells us that each month it purchases inventory equal to 55% of the next month's expected sales. So what we can do now, skip a line for clarity, and then we are going to put 55% into here. That's going to be the purchases of next month's inventory. So we're going to go to May, and we're going to start off. We're going to do equals. We're going to do this 55%. And we're going to times that by next month's sales. Do that always holding the constant because we are all once again want to drag it over. Cool. Now you can see November is empty. So I'm just going to delete it because it's a 0. Really has no matter. All right. After this, it says the company pays for 40% of its inventory purchases in the same month and 60% in the following month. So now we kind of have to see when the firm is paying for its goods. All right. So we're going to start off here, and we're going to continue with payments. And this we're going to bold because it's also a pretty important thing. F2. All right. So we're going to go during month. And we're going to make this, I believe it was 40%. And then we're going to do after month. And for future's sake, I'm going to do 1 minus that. Just for forward measures, if we have to do scenario manager in a little bit, so I'm just going to make it automated there. All right. So we're going to start in May again. And once again, we are going to do purchases. And then we're going to times that by 40% because it is the same month. Once again, make that constant. Come back here. And then we are going to have to times $60% of the following month. We are going to have to multiply this by the discount for that same month payment. I believe it is 2%. However, just gonna do that for now. And down here, I am going to kind of just make Excel do all the work. One of the two rows in Excel. All right, so I can just come back here, add that for, I believe it is 32. Once again, having to keep that constant. Now I'm going to drag that all the way over to November. Once again, 0. So now that we have all of our same month payments with discounted for that same month payment, we can move on to after month payments. So what we're going to do here is we are going to multiply the previous year's purchases, months, obviously 0. And we're going to multiply that by that 60%, holding a constant, giving us 0. However, we can drag it on down and we'll get the data for the rest of the months. And once we have both of our payments, we are able to get our total payments, which is just another equals sum. Once again, it's easy. Bring that over here. That's what you get. Also, once again, I'm going to add that top border. So you can see it is cumulative or added. Yes. So now there are a couple of points in the textbook that are made kind of given that I want to put into my worksheet that going forward, it will kind of just run smoother. So I'm able to not be plugging in constants and I can use references from Excel. One is minimum cash balance. Like I said earlier, that was 25,000. I already got a discount for same month payment, the annual interest rate, which is going to be that 4%. I also want to include a monthly interest rate, which will make it easier for me to use rather than dividing by 12 in every single formula. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to divide that by 12, get 0.33, and I want that in 8%. I'm going to go up here, expand it 2 decimal places, and get 0.33%. The last one I'm going to add is total interest cost. That I'm going to come back to a little bit later, but kind of just want to have that there. It asks for it eventually. Add a border around all this so you kind of know this is out of the way. And format this as well. All right, we're back, and I just set up the rest of the worksheet. I just did that without going through it. Didn't really want to bore you with me typing in words and stuff like that. Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to start off in collections, and we already have these, but I kind of want to bring them down. So we are going to have, boom. Right. Disbursements, nothing, and then inventory. I'm also going to drag down inventory payments. And that was just, once again, payments. Nothing special going on right here. All right. Here we go. All right, we are going to skip over short-term interest right now and just enter in the given payments that were given in our textbook problem. We're going to start in June. Sorry about that. September 2, 8. November, we're gonna have no payment, no given payments. Once again, I'm going to just format these. Actually, I'm gonna do all the formatting later. So we're kind of just gonna go through it, and then at the end, tie it all together. Format, title, scenario manager. All right. So here, now that we have these, we are going to have to get the total disbursements. Once again, another large one. I'm just going to. All right. So we're going to sum. Once again, we're going to sum, I believe, 20 inventory payments all the way down into the given payments. Once we do that, we can drag that across. There. So now we are set. All right, so now we can go back to the problem and see what it said. The firm ended with a 30,000 unadjusted cash balance in May. So go to May. We're going to go to add. We're going to go to 30,000. And we are going. Did I click May? Okay, perfect. And now we are going to continue on with the rest of our model. Actually, I realized that I was putting that in opening cash balance. So I'm going to go down to here, 30,000. We're not currently borrowing anything, and our closing cash balance would just be equal to 27. Again, we can't be borrowing anything if we're not borrowing anything, right? Perfect. So if our closing cash balance is 30,000 in May, in June, that is going to be our opening cash balance. Now we're going to do net additions to cash, and we are going to do them for June, and then we're going to slide it all the way down. So we're going to start off with this, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our collections, and we're going to subtract that by our total disbursements. As you can see, that is greatly negative. If you drag it across. Perfect. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to find unadjusted cash balances for everything else, which would just be this. Chooses 49,000. Now, current borrowing obviously is going to be our closing cash balance minus our unadjusted cash balance, and we must maintain a $25,000 cash balance, so every month. So I'm going to plug that in here. Actually, you know what? I have a better idea. I'm going to reference my table, which I almost forgot about. Perfect. So now that is just going to equal our borrowing. Right, all right. So now as we move forward, they're going to be a little bit different. However, not much. Once again, must maintain that $25,000 ending cash balance, so that's going to be the beginning. All right. Already put in our net additions to cash for everything. Also, why not be smart and drag these across as well? These are already the same. I kind of just wanted to show the beginning. Perfect. All right. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. After I do this, I'm pretty much going to reference 25,000 the entire way. Right. Now, as we get down here, we're going to do equals, and we are going to add our current borrowing, and we are going to add that into the previous year's cumulative borrowing. Think about it. If we borrowed $74,000 last year, and we have $35,000 left, there's in between that, we paid off $39,000. So once again, bang, bang, and then we are going to just drag that across as well. Perfect. Now I'm going to set up the scenario manager. Just give me 1 second. However, there is one last thing that we must do before scenario manager, and that is figuring out short-term interest, which will then apply into our scenario manager. Perfect. So we're going to do here. Thank you. So we are going to get the previous year's cumulative borrowing and multiply that by our monthly interest rate. This is why I divided by 12 earlier, so I didn't have to do parentheses and then divided by 12 inside of the formula. A lot easier just to use an already created function formula, whatever you want to call it. Reference that because we're going to keep that no matter what. And then we are going to drag that all the way down. Now these look terrible. I know I said I was going to format later, but I'm just going to make them 2 decimal places. Perfect. So now we are ready to get into the scenario manager portion. All right, so in order to even start our scenario manager, we are going to have to find the sum of all of our short-term interests. So we're going to go here, we're going to drag it across. Which will, actually, we are going to take November out of our short-term interest. It should give us 204.81 money. Now we are ready to go on to scenario manager. So we're going to go to data. I go to scenario manager. And we are going to have to add a couple. I gotta slide this on this screen. So you're gonna have to add a couple of scenarios. All right, so we're obviously gonna want to change this cell, and we are gonna make that 0%. It'll just autocorrect to 0.00. But before I go any further, I honestly should read B out of the textbook. So, Bob Lala, the president, is considering stretching out its inventory payments. He believes that it may be less expensive to borrow from suppliers than from the bank. He has asked you to use a scenario manager tool to see what the total interest cost for this time would be at 0%, 10%, 30%, or 40% of its inventory purchases in the same month. Same month, key. The remainder would be paid in the following month, like we did before. Create a scenario summary and describe whether results would support or go against Bob's beliefs. All right, so I already did 0%, so now I'm gonna have to add 10%. Once again, changing that same cell and making it 10%. Add another one, 30%, changing B14, already in there for me. And we are going to make this 30%. Last but not least, 40%. All right, so now that we have this, we are going to have to make a summary. So we can choose scenario summary or scenario pivot table. We want summary. We also want our resulting cells to be our total interest costs, because we want to see whether or not it would be less expensive to borrow from suppliers or it would be more expensive to bank. As we can see here, this is what the scenario summary would be. So as we can see, currently we are at 204.81, and then at 0%, we'd be at 790, 644, 351, and back down to 204 if we were to stay with the 40% that we already had. So looking at this, if we are having higher interest payments throughout the year, that's not good. We do not want these payments to be higher than they need to be. All right. So I'm going to go back to my first sheet before I kind of expand upon the scenario summary, and kind of just format it and kind of work on a little bit of formatting tools. Show you I have a little something. All right. So I'm going to rename this to cash budget. And then I'm also going to add, here's this, here we go. I'm going to automate the title. So we're going to go for the period, space, then quotation, makes a big mark. We have to go and text. We have to go to E4, which is going to be June, because we want a June to October sheet. Format text, how we want it. Just number. And then number, but letters. Bang. And we're going to go and then have to go to, obviously, because it's going to be for the period June to October. 2. We have to add text again. And that's when we click on October, I4. Format that. Numbers. And then finish that off. And obviously, this is 2021. As you can see here, I messed up a little bit. I forgot to add a space in front of 2021. There we go. All right, so now, after I did that, that's kind of the hardest kind of setting up part. I'm going to go load, blah, manufacturing. And then I'm going to do cash budget. So that's what we were working on. So now we have these. Go here. I can use the keyboard. It's a lot easier. Go all the way through November. Control 1 it. Go to center across selection. This will make it the prettiest. I don't know if you can see that, but I just need to drag it. Bang. Bold it all. I also like to make my titles with a little bit of background. Makes it a lot more appealing to the eye. And then a bottom line. So as we can see here, it's starting to come out a little bit. All right. So now we are going to format all of our data. So we're going to go down. And, we're not really rocking with decimal places unless it is those short-term interest payments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to here take away these decimal places, which should make the entire sheet a little bit more appealing to the normal eye. So now we go back to short-term interest payments, and we are going to want to make these expand it back to 2. I'm going to take away the dollar sign from that just to help out a little bit. All right, so now that we have this, I think it's time to talk about the scenario summary a little bit further. So in the question it asks, describe whether results support Bob's beliefs. And I do not believe they do. Just because, for one, you are getting that 2% discount on same month purchases. And as we can see, these numbers are way higher than what it should be, what it normally is with that 40% and 2% same month purchases. If we have a 0% in the same month, we're just losing out on 2% and paying 100% the next month, which in terms really doesn't make sense unless you're very short on cash at the moment and you want to have a high accounts receivable payables period, receivables period, and payables period. So back to that, I do not believe that these lower same month payments will be beneficial to the company, I would stick with the 40%. All right, so I'm just going to kind of add a couple things around here and finish up the worksheet to look pretty, because that's the point of Excel. Last tool I want to show you, know how to do, is Format Painter. Kind of get you to format the cell that you would like from a previous one. I know that I was including November in a lot of these, but for the sake of this cash budget, I am going to delete it all because it's asking for June to October. So at the end of October, we will cumulatively be borrowing $74,905. I appreciate your time for watching my video. Hopefully I didn't run too long. I might have. But yeah, thought a cash budget would be nice to show, as well as showing how to use Scenario Manager. Thank you.